Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter. To round off my series of tip videos for Alatreon, I began a lot of questions about the elemental caps and how it works for the elemental shots for bowguns. I looked online, I didn't see a lot of resources, or the ones I saw were a little complicated, so I wanted to take my attempt to make it easy to understand, so here we go. Honestly, the whole reason I'm doing this is because I looked it up, because I was curious, because I'm
In love.
That's right, I'm in love with the Alatreon Dominator. This light bowgun is fantastic. There's tons of videos online on YouTube talking about why this weapon is so cool, so I suggest that you look it up if you're interested. But basically it is awesome for firing rapid shot for all the different elemental types. So let's jump into the math. I'm going to make it much easier than I normally do. First off, the value that you're seeing for the attack on your equipment screen is a lie. It's bloated, and depending on the weapon, there's different ways that it's bloated to sort of communicate best how much damage output you can averagely get from the weapon. For light bowgun, that is a 1.3 is the bloat factor. For heavy bowgun, it's 1.5. So if we take my 338, you'll see that the Alatreon light bowgun is actually a 260 true attack weapon. Like most games, all the Alatreon weapons will have very similar, if not identical, true attack numbers, but they're just scaled a little bit differently the way that they're shown on the screen. Okay, so an elemental shot. What I mean is like the flaming shot, water shot, freeze shot, thunder shot. Dragon is similar, but it's kind of special, so I'm not going to talk about it. So we're just going to focus on these four. They have two parts to their damage. There's 8 physical and 220, which is actually 22, elemental. Again, elemental, if you ever see it on a weapon, if it's like 220 or 400, they're always bloated by a factor of 10. So just divide it by 10 and you get the actual number. So 8 raw or physical damage and 22 elemental. That is the set power for elemental shots. In this game, there's no like elemental level 1, level 2, or anything weird like that. So whether you're using a really weak bowgun or a very powerful one, they all have the same base stats, which is why the attack power of your weapon, which you'll see, actually affects the amount of elemental damage it does as well. Otherwise, the game would be kind of broken. So the easiest way to think about this is like, okay, my weapon is 260. Think of that as like your maximum bench press. Like if you're going to just do one repetition of a bench press, what is the maximum amount of weight you can do if you put 100% of all your strength and being into that push? So obviously, if you're just going pew 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 with an elemental shot, you're not putting out all your physical power. You're doing 8%. This is what they often call for the Blade Master weapon's motion value. It's just a percentage of your maximum power that you're doing for a particular move. And these elemental shots is 22% of your max power is elemental damage. So given the Alatreon light bowgun, which we're looking at, which is 260 true attack, 8% of that max power, which is physical, would be 20.8 damage, and 22% of that max power, 260, would be 57.2 elemental. Now for each monster, every different body part has a different threshold of how much damage it takes, both from cutting, impact, and shot damage from bowguns, as well as elemental stuff as well. But let's just look at the training post, which is 80 physical and 30 for elemental. That means that 80% of your damage will come through and connect with this pole, and 30% of your elemental power will connect this damage to the pole as well. Keep in mind, this is fantastic. This is like best case scenario. When you're fighting a monster, you're not often going to get an 80 rated spot on a monster. Maybe there's some monsters like Alatreon who has a very squishy head, or Rathian, where this is kind of representative of that, but not the other body parts. And 30% elemental is super high. Normally you wouldn't see anything much more above 20-25, so just consider this best case scenario. Now we're going to ignore all the other really weird modifications, like one quest might have a defense modifier that's different than another one that might make the monster take less damage or whatever, but that's not important for this exercise. So this pole takes 80% physical damage. So if we have our 20.8 physical damage from an elemental shot, that's 16.64, and we round up, which becomes 17, and 30% elemental damage gets through, so our 57.2 becomes 17.16, or rounded down, so our overall damage for one elemental shot is 34 damage. So yeah, if you thought it was all elemental damage, you're wrong. There's actually quite a lot of physical raw damage in here as well, and because your elemental power is calculated off of the attack of your weapon, raising your attack power of your weapon will essentially raise both of these. So both your physical damage output and your elemental damage output. So overall, it's always a good idea to raise your attack power, even if you're running elemental. Okay, so how do we get more elemental damage, you ask? Well, we use the element attack skills, which have 6 levels in Iceborne, and they give various different bonuses. So let's walk through and see what happens if we use something like Ice Attack level 3, which gives us Ice Attack plus 100, which again is Ice Attack plus 10. So instead of our elemental being 22% of our total power, it's going to be 32% because we added 10 to it. So that'll be 2496 rounded up to 25. We do a total of 42 damage, which is an increase from that 34 to 42 just with these 3 skill points. That's a 24% increase. That's huge. So let's go buck wild. Let's go all the way up to Ice Attack 6. Yeah, that's right. We find out we go from 42 to just 44 damage. How is it such a small increase despite all those skill points that we put in here to increase it? And why are we at 44 damage when we should be at 45? Gosh darn it, I want that 1 point. Turns out there's 2 reasons. The first one is really simple. We're just starting to graze the elemental cap. There's a rule that says for bowguns that thou shalt not surpass 1.6 times your base power, which for 220 elemental for these shots is 352. The second reason is the law of diminishing returns. You start low, you end low. You want to win big, you gotta start big. Ice Attack and all the other elemental ones, the level 6, are really meant for weapons that are in like the 400s or 500s. Some are way higher than 220. If you look at this chart here, 70% of all the gains is in with the first 3 levels. So is it really worth going from level 3 to 4 when you're only getting plus 10, which is 1 point of elemental power? No, of course it's not. So either you're going to be running this thing with a pure elemental crit set, or you're going to be doing what most people are doing and you're going to use Safi'jiiva. This is the godly set if you're running elemental bowguns, especially the Alatreon one. For just 3 pieces, you're going to get plus 80 elemental, and it raises the cap from 1.6 to 2.2 times. And if you order a full set of 5 pieces, will not only throw in an elemental boost of 150, it raises the cap all the way up to 2.55 times, which is way more than you're ever going to need. Remember, we're starting out here with 220 elementals, so getting like plus 100 using just up to like level 3 on the elemental attack up, and then a 5 set here with another 150, we're talking about some serious gains. Using element attack level 6, and we're going at our base, which was 44 damage on our shot. Using just 3 pieces of Safi'jiiva armor, we're going to go from 44, which was our elemental attack level 6, and just that's it. We go all the way up to 48, which is a substantial gain. But if we use a full set of Savi, we go from 44 all the way up to 57. And if we get a crit, and remember we're getting 40% affinity now, it's 63. No, this video is not sponsored by Safi'jiiva. Anyways, the point of this video was to explain to you the damage calculation and the rules behind how elemental power works for the elemental shots on the bowguns. So I think I've done that, and I got you a little taste of the sets that I like to use. One last thing I want to note here is that I don't know how augments actually work on bowguns. There's no official documentation. The official guides in Japan do not list what happens. I've done some testing, got some weird results, but needless to be said, if you're going to be running an elemental set and you have the ability to, I would probably think that doing a custom augment for elemental power up is going to be a good idea. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you sincerely check out the Alatreon light bowgun if you're even slightly remotely interested. It is amazing, and it's got me, who hasn't played this game in months, excited and playing and enjoying the game again. So that says a lot. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy hunting.